Teething problems.
It is Friday, October 12th at 9:30 a.m. This is a regularly scheduled hearing meeting of the Community Preservation Committee to hear applicants relative to funding for fiscal year 2020. We do have a quorum. You've been here before. We would ask, this session is being videotaped and recorded. We'd ask that you identify yourself, and would then ask that you take about 5 to 10 minutes to sort of flush out the presentation, and we will then open the floor to questions. And we can do that around the thumb drive and however you want. So.
Yeah.
All right. My name is Eric Savetsky, director of the Land Bank, Nantucket Land Bank. Shelley Dresser and David Gagnon are here from our Mariah Mitchell Association, and the project is a collaboration between our two organizations with the help of various other smaller entities as well.
Can I just apologize in advance? I'm going to need to leave a little bit earlier because I had a meeting and I know how hard it was to get these scheduled, so I certainly don't need to be here. We're both Eric and Shelley.
And Jessie Bell from the Land Bank, Assistant Director, would have liked to have been here, and she was actually going to present, but she's ill today, and she worked with Shelley on putting the application together that you guys have in front of you. So first off, thanks for the funds that we received last year, which were instrumental in developing the plan that you have in front of you. Just to back up to the very beginning, the Mariah Mitchell Association and the Land Bank were approached by some of the members of the board of the Healthy Nantucket 2020. That was back in 2016, about the need for a accessible playground and how it would fit into potentially one of their funding sources. And obviously we're applying there for funds as well. They identified the Old South Road, Nobody Farm Road, Milestone Triangle there as an area with 400 school-aged children. This was a couple of years ago, before Richmond, before Tacoma, and no playgrounds in that area. And I don't believe there's an existing accessible playground on the island either. A work group got together, and we identified the site on Hinsdale Road, Land Bank property, and started to work with the ideas of the STEAM component, which Shelley can speak about a little bit. But we hired Chris Horiuchi, who's on the Cape, a landscape architect who's done other playgrounds. And she took the components of the playground that we had selected and devised this landscape or layout plan for the playground, which is kind of unique to Nantucket. It's a more rambling walk-through playground as opposed to a little block with equipment in it. So it will provide quite a different experience from the other playgrounds. There was a lot of effort put into the equipment that was selected. We're working with a vendor that is a state contract vendor, O'Brien, really nice equipment. We met on site with them. We met on site with a woman from UMass who is an accessible consultant. Yeah. All the equipment that's been selected pretty much doesn't exist on Nantucket, so really a lot of effort went into providing new equipment and new things kids can do that don't exist at other playgrounds. It's got this really nice poured-in-place surface, like a rubberized surface, which makes it accessible and safe and very durable. It's a little bit expensive, but in the long run, it makes sense to use that.
That's not the surface that's used for football fields? Or is it?
No, that's like a chipped rubber with the turf. This is actually a poured rubber that then hardens, and so it's a...
the only reason my question is that that surface is not able to be funded through community funding, the ones that are used sort of on the existing football field.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. No, it's quite different from that.
Okay.
It's not like turf. I've seen it in Boston.
Yeah, it's not turf.
And then
Well, just a question.
Yeah.
I don't know, Shelley, do you want to talk a little bit about the STEAM components or the accessible components?
So the way Mariah Mitchell got involved was right after that hospital presentation. I went up and said, you know, it'd be really great if we could add some STEAM components, you know, have some science in there, and then, you know, kids could do field trips to this playground. It's not going on to
Oh,
the.
we're okay.
We'll
Thank you
we'll
very
figure it
much.
out.
Yeah.
So,
Should I say also that STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, art, and math? So those are the components, and the acronym is STEAM, so.
and also if you want it to be an ADA playground, there are going to be climbing structures and things that typically developing kids can do, but this is something sound and music and pixels and looking through a kaleidoscope and so on, which you'll see in this design and in the equipment list, is something that other kids could do and actually do that with their typical developing peers. So it provides not only an entree to science, it also provides an avenue for kids to play. So, is that?
Yeah, I mean, it would look like it's going to look like a playground, and it has all these other components sort of hidden within the structure.
So the ramp is made so that a wheelchair can go up,
Yeah.
and or somebody who's struggling with walking can go, but there'll be all these things on the side of the ramp that kids can play with. So and I have to say, we are focusing on kids because it's a playground, but it also enables parents or grandparents that are handicapped to enjoy their kids and be part of that playground as well.
The project also includes an adult fitness area with about at least four pieces of equipment that are for adult fitness of all ages, up until senior citizens can use to work out, which is something that we've heard people bring up in the past as something that doesn't exist in an outdoor setting on Nantucket. You see it elsewhere in open spaces.
And then
Is that right?
we added specific things, they're parallel bars, but they could also be used if you're doing therapy and, just walk, you have a knee therapy or something and you need to walk holding on. So there are lots of different things. And we looked at things from many different angles, and it wasn't just us. I mean, we had Nantucket Star, we had the school system, we had, the groups are listed in there, so I don't have to repeat them, but numerous groups meeting with us every other month till we came up with this plan.
And you'll also see on the plan a nature playground area, and that's something that our landscape architect came up with, that the land bank is going to do as an aside to the playground part of it, the more formal playground. There's going to be a sort of a nature area that has sticks and branches and things, and they can build forts and nests, and it's something that she's seen elsewhere that is really fun for kids. And occasionally the land bank would come in and disassemble whatever is built there with the stuff that's there, and then the kids can start over again. And, that's sort of off to the side of the
And not part of
primary
this
part
proposal.
Right, that's something the land bank's doing as a side component.
That's cool.
Do we have a video presentation?
We do, yes. Unfortunately, maybe we can all gather.
Let's turn it around and put it right on.
Yeah.
If you get it opened up full screen.
It shows the equipment much better
It
than
shows the equipment,
Actually,
it's
if you could
not
leave
laid
that,
out the way
Okay.
we had it there,
Use that.
but it
Thank
does
you.
show it gives you a sense.
And then,
I'm amused that the acronym STEAM conjures up the 19th century when the one thing that is missing is sort of steam.
can you all see? I can hold it up too. Okay.
Actual components. You notice none of them are anyplace else on the island. We really carefully did a survey, and they did a survey as well. Yeah. Yeah. And again, it will be laid out more park-like, like on the top here. Okay.
right, hold on a second.
The different climbing structure, the different climbing structure that we picked was supposedly from our ADA specialist was a better one for kids that are handicapped and always can play on that particular thing. Yeah, so there are a couple of things, one piece is there because it will attract people to the playground, and swings don't have high play value, but they're used by everyone. So you can't, it's almost impossible to have a playground without swings. So. But all the other pieces really will support a lot of children at the playground.
Questions? Maria?
Initially, the grantee was Mariah Mitchell. Why did you switch? Who is actually applying for this?
It was a joint application.
Joint, yeah.
Okay, well that leads, because very often, I think the concept I appreciate, the population you're going to service I appreciate, but for us it comes down to dollars. And this is a very large amount you're asking for. And normally we ask those that are coming to us to contribute. Now I know the land bank has contributed for the land, but was there any discussion of the land bank also contributing to the structures itself?
There's $250,000 in there that's land bank cash funds.
Right, but you're asking us for $8 million.
800,000.
800,000, I'm sorry, 800,000. Woo! It's those zeros.
The total project is over $1 million.
Say again?
Total project, based on this data, the total
Right.
project is over $1 million. Land Bank is contributing $250,000 to that.
Plus
Right.
$2 million worth of land, $2.5 million worth of land.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're also adding that nature playground area as well. That's a side thing that the land bank's doing.
Okay, and if we, I don't know what our numbers are going to be, but we've asked everybody to do this. If we couldn't give you the lump sum that you're asking for, could you phase it? Could you do this piece and put that equipment in, and then next year come back to us for X, Y, Z?
We'd have to take a new look at it because of the board in place material, where it could be broken and stopped, because everything's integrated with that pathway that connects everything. So we'd have to look at how that works from a construction
It's
perspective.
expensive to do.
It would be more expensive, that's
Yeah,
my
we'd end
question.
up ultimately paying a lot more. And your question why Mariah Mitchell is not the applicant, we can't afford to lay out that kind of money, and it will happen pretty quickly. So in a month, it takes a month to build the playground.
Sure.
And so for us to lay out $800,000 in a month is just not possible. We have a $1.5 million budget.
And I guess my other question is, you're going to do the maintenance.
The land bank will, yeah. We maintain one playground out in Codfish Park currently.
Right, and do you have a general idea about what it's going to cost? Or are you just going to, you're going to have a maintenance budget?
Relative to our overall maintenance, it's a pretty minor component.
Okay.
The equipment is very rugged. The landscaping is going to be fairly minimal there, very natural setting. So equipment maintenance shouldn't be too bad. We've talked to the vendor about that poured-in-place surface, which is really durable and been tested.
And fixable.
So
And handicap accessible.
we're pretty confident that the maintenance won't be a major burden.
But what they did agree to was $20,000 a year in maintenance.
Okay, that was my question. And I don't know, I know that it's a different surface, but I'm pretty sure that the Fields bought it's almost like a vacuum cleaner that sweeps up, or
That was broken half the time, yeah.
I don't know, I haven't been down there in a
We
while.
talked about the cleaning of it. I forget how that all works.
Maybe
the
you just
vendor talked
blow,
about that.
you know,
He
those
talked
blow-
about every couple of years, you
Like it's
get like
power
a
washed or
crew,
something.
he said they typically get volunteers together and you just kind of wash it up, so.
Like power
wash it off.
washing.
But it'll be
Yeah.
great. It drains actually. It's semi-porous, and the installation is key. And if it's done right, then it's very durable.
Yeah.
So the project's going to use 2 acres, right, out of the 10 that you own there?
Yep.
What's happening to the other 8 acres?
The land bank has also engaged the same architect to do a master plan for the remainder of the property. There's a couple of uses on the property already, which also lends itself to this playground. We created a play field there, just a basic flat open grass play field for kids to play on, which exists already on the property. There's a labyrinth on the property. There's a pasture where the Valeros let their animals out into, and people go there just to see the animals. But there is some more area that's still available to be used for potential future uses. We haven't seen her first draft of the master plan for the overall property yet.
Yeah, the reason why I ask, because the GIS, the town's 2019 evaluation of the 10 acres is 2.812 million. And so I was a bit puzzled that you felt that a 2-acre use or contribution, that you valued it at 2.5 million.
That was based on the price we paid for the property.
Right, but you paid for all 10 acres.
Right, but we paid over $10 million for the property because it was zoned for 5,000 square foot lots. So it was 55 lots on paper when we purchased it.
The highest and best use.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad I asked. You know, the other thing is that sort of mirroring Maria's concerns. I mean, why? I just feel you have ample funding from the way you're set up to do it yourself in its entirety, and as Maria said, we have $5 million worth of requests for about 1.8 million available, and so I guess a corollary question would be, if we didn't fund it, would you not build it?
This particular design wouldn't be something that the land bank would typically do on its own. The reason that this proposal is here is because of this collaborative effort and other needs expressed. Even the playground in Codfish Park was done because a group in Wisconsin came to the land bank and did some fundraising and raised about half the cost of that project. I don't think this particular the land bank may do a playground, but it probably wouldn't be what this playground is.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Is this going to be fenced in?
We would have split rail type fence with possibly some sort of chicken wire. We want to make sure young kids can't run out into the road and things like that. I don't envision, there's no plan to have high fencing of any sort.
Just think of after hours, that's all it's an after hour hangout.
Yeah.
The police said that they wanted it to be visible, so not to have high fencing, but we could have the lower fencing just to keep kids in, but keep a line of sight.
Yep.
How did you deal with the turn in and out from people going out from the Rotary down or South Road?
We did check with planning after it was suggested last year. There was some concerns about a median being there, a divider, and there is no divider in this location. So there will be the ability to turn in from the eastbound lane. There's no partition there. We've recently met with Rob McNeil from the DPW, and he's made some suggestions which we may incorporate. He suggested a deceleration area for cars turning in and separating a bike path walking entrance from the driveway coming in, so that we'd have a separate paved bike path / sidewalk coming into the property that is not adjacent to or on the driveway. And he had suggested possibly moving it to the east so that it lines up better with the future potential Lover's Lane multi-use path that's currently being talked about. And I went out there, and we're still they don't line up perfectly. Lover's Lane is further east than this property, but we may tweak the entrance a little bit for safety.
Any other questions?
I don't know if you'll know the answer to this, and this doesn't really impact your project, but it might impact my thinking on something else. Eric, are you familiar with the property that Acreage just bought?
The who?
That Acreage just bought from the Holgate family?
You
Acreage.
talking about the 9 lots?
I'm talking about the people who want to put in the second marijuana dispensary.
Brought that up with both parties.
Do you know how far it is from this?
I measured the 40 Old South Road, which I guess is not the same as the piece that just sold. It's one of the Holgate lots that got retained by the Holgates.
The one that's right on the corner that had.
It was one of the
landscaping.
brothers.
It's right on the corner.
40 Old South is more than 500 feet from this property.
Is it more than 2,000 feet?
It is not more than 2,000 feet.
It doesn't have to be 2,000 from a playground.
No, not from a playground. That's right. It's 2,000 from another dispensary.
Yeah, it's 500.
But I checked, and even, not the playground, but the actual property boundary, it's more than 500, it's probably 600 feet from the property boundary. It's close, but it's not within the 500 feet, which I believe state law
Yeah, that's
would then
state law.
prohibit.
I think it's a fabulous project, and I have one concern and one question. The concern is, do you really think that 15 parking places is enough? I know you have a spot for additional or future parking, but that seems like a low number to me.
It's not enough.
This is going to be pretty popular, I would think. And the question I have, are there picnic tables too? Because I can see a lot of families wanting to go there like for a birthday party or...
The middle area right here is where we were going to put the picnic tables, and there were picnic tables.
Yeah, there's a central sort of open area.
Cool.
So that way parents can look in both directions
See
if they
the
have
whole-
children.
Gotcha.
Because my concern, and other people that, like me who have 3 children, were concerned about the visual for all 3 kids.
Yeah.
And so we made this sort of parent sitting area in the middle.
We will definitely circle back with the designer on this, and as you can see, they have laid out a future, and there's other uses on the property, so
I would put all the parking in.
we will address that, and whether it's in 2 phases and seeing how it goes, or if we expand it, we'll definitely be able to expand it if necessary.
I think that old expression, if you build it, they will come, I think that's going to happen.
They do it at Winter Park.
Yeah.
There's not enough parking there.
Linda, and then Maria, and then Ian.
Thank you very much, my apologies.
Hold on.
Okay, sorry.
You can go.
Okay, thank you.
It's just a general question for
Good
Land
to see you, thank you.
You've got those other areas out there. You're going to have pathways from here to those other areas?
Yeah.
The open field and the other?
Land bank would, once
Okay.
this is developed, we'd mow, brush cut, connecting paths.
Handicap accessible connecting paths.
Those would have to, I think that probably then would be like a stone dust,
Yes,
a
you can use
compacted stone dust
You can use
path.
compacted stone dust. And just make sure that everything's connected in there, so it becomes, so you don't have to get back in your car and drive to the
Right.
other one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Maria.
Was there any thought to bathroom facilities?
That's a really big question, and becomes a whole nother, something that the land bank is not familiar with. We don't have bathroom facilities other than in the summer we've got porta potties out at 40th Pole because of an agreement with a neighbor. It's something that we have thought about. The bathrooms were in, then they were out, and they're still out.
But I think it would raise the
They put it back
expense. If
in.
we end up needing it, we will consider that later on. We noticed that most of the playgrounds around here don't have bathroom facilities, so there's this concept that people tend to make their children go to the bathroom ahead of time. I mean, I don't know, but so we're not opposed to the idea that could be a later phase if we get feedback that that's necessary, but that's it.
But, I mean, it's just in the summer, we get so many people. Porta potties would not be, you'd put them in temporarily at least.
Right, create
Yeah.
a little enclosure
Yeah.
for them,
Right,
and
take
that
them
would be
out
a
for
way
a
of doing it that wouldn't be as big a commitment as building a
Sure.
accessible bathroom.
Because if
that-
we're talking about special ed kids, they spend a lot of time in the bathroom.
And then full permanent bathrooms raise a host of
I
issues
know.
with maintenance, just locking it up, and sort of other things that we just haven't crossed that bridge yet.
Ian, and then Linda.
Well, as an aside, if in California, they have a number of very basic bathrooms that are basically just cement floor, cement block walls with a roof that allows ventilation on either side, and then basically just a pit with a toilet on top, and that is pumped out, so with no water or anything. But I just put that in as an aside. What I didn't see, and please tell me how I missed it, was the bike racks for the kids, and how where the bike rack's going to go, and how many do you? I mean, you're going to have for 25 kids or 50 kids? I mean, I thought 25 would be a good idea.
I think that's in the furnishings budget.
Should be, but it may not be.
I don't see it on the plan or in the furnishing.
It just
So
says benches, picnic tables, yeah.
There we go.
So
I thought
would
it came up before the bike racks. Maybe it just came up recently.
Yeah, I think
know
it came up recently. I think, we do have a contingency in there, and that would be probably one of the contingency items. That's why you have a contingency.
We would definitely have them, if they're not in the budget.
Yeah.
The land bank would provide them.
Well, would you please send us a letter by the 18th reaffirming that you are going to have bike racks there? Thank you.
Do that, yeah. Sorry.
And just so that you know, very often the contingency is the first, especially if we're, the dollars are tight, we usually don't do the contingencies. So
Okay.
just so you know, because it's
Yeah.
your project.
Linda?
I'll look into the
I'll
price.
go back to the bathroom issue. And if you're gonna do a couple of porta potties, one has to be handicap accessible.
Right, I
It's a
agree.
little bit larger. Back in the day, I don't know if Jack was on the Parks and Rec back then, but when they were talking about that thing out at the end of Nantucket Road, when Jimmy was doing it, he was talking about compost toilets.
Right.
So that was at a remote area where you couldn't put a septic, and he looked into it, and we had all the details of it. And so look into the compost toilets.
Yeah, I
They're
was thinking
expensive.
now what you were saying.
And I was on Park and Rec then.
Right.
They actually look like a mobile home. It
Yeah.
doesn't look like a porta potty. They
Yeah,
bring
they're
them in and
pretty
it's a box. But it looks more like a more substantial building than a porta
Well, and you
potty.
have to vent the fumes.
But that's,
and
you
everything.
move it in,
can't
moving
use,
out, but I don't know.
Any other questions? We're not going to solve detailed questions.
Okay, so I think my understanding is that we're looking at things in terms of parking, but it will be generally the same idea. The composting, the toilet issue may come in another phase. If people decide that it's needed, we may throw out some porta potties that are handicap accessible if need be this year, and you need a letter indicating that there will be bike racks.
We'd like you to cover all 3 points in the letter to us or email to us by the 18th.
Okay, is that?
We can do that, sure.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be fancy, just.
And could you also just kind of include why you feel that the land bank funds themselves, you've done your part, you don't feel that you need to contribute to the structure of the, you know what I mean?
Well, they are, they're 250,000.
Okay, all right, skip it.
Well, no, because,
Cash.
I mean, you brought up yourself, Eric, that in Sconset you contributed approximately 50%.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that project was about $350,000.
But it's not handicapped accessible.
Right, but I
And it's
guess,
not
I think our point is, we're trying to hold everybody to the same
Right.
standards, and we have asked everybody to make some, or show us, if you can't contribute, because you can't do fundraising or whatever, but the land bank does have substantial funds.
Right, I think that providing the land, the $250,000, the
Maintenance.
nature play space area, ongoing maintenance, and obviously if there's no contingency, if there's overages in certain areas, or if bike racks needed to be bought and they're not in the budget, that's going to be on the land bank.
There's also things that, I actually asked the land bank that question as well. And it's like, will this happen even if we don't get funded? And because Mariah Mitchell has put a lot of time and energy into it, and we'd like to see it happen. And then I guess what was explained to me was that, you're looking at housing by the golf course, and there's all these other projects that you have going on that.
Boardwalks and other parking areas, and yeah, we've got anywhere from 10 to 15 projects in the works at the moment on other properties that we're improving for the public, so, and creating handicapped accessible spaces elsewhere around the island for people to go to, so it's not like this is the only
So then when you look at their
project.
big budget, this wasn't something that they were planning
Let-
on
one
doing
last
for
question.
this
Yeah.
level of expense.
Well, no, I just want to put it on the record that I think for designing a 2-acre children's playground and not having at least a bike rack for at least 25 bicycles is a glaring oversight, to be honest with you. You know, I mean, and I would have thought 25 would be a minimum.
Well, that's been addressed. so.
Yeah, we're happy to do that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, and you'll get back to us with the issues that we asked.
By the October 18th?
October 18th.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice project.
Thanks.
When they leave, before I would have the committee stay in here for 1 minute.
I have to talk to him.
Ask him to wait, please, Linda.
I can do that.
For a
I can
second?
wait, yep, no
Okay.
problem.
Jack, is this yours?
Yes. Just one point of clarification. What we are able to allocate has reserves that may be available. And in the area of open space where this project fits, we have over $800,000 of reserves available in addition to the 10% that so we would have close to $1 million in the open space area of funding available. I didn't want to say that when they were here.
That we've
I
been
just-
hanging on to for
That's
years.
what I,
Yeah.
No,
No project.
well, the fact of the matter is that that's because of the fact that we very rarely ever
Yeah, but
have
this
open
much
space requests, and our history has been that our open space allocations have in fact generally been for significant amounts because of the fact that we have the funding available. So it doesn't change the fact that, and that's why I didn't interject anything when they were here, that they need to look very carefully at their budget and stuff like that. But we do have designated reserves for open space that are available to us in addition to the about somewhere between $2.1 to $2.2 million that we're going to have available through the other sources.
And I totally, and everybody knows I'm like the Park and Rec queen. Because Barry isn't here, he said it last time we met. Just because we have it doesn't mean we have to spend it. So I'm frugal because it's a lot of money. And I don't know that maybe next year some other people are going to come to us with a great idea and we're like, oh, we've done all the reserve funds.
Well, we have
I
to
don't
deal
know.
with what we have
We
to deal with what
today.
we have, and that's the decision that we are given the responsibility to make.
Yeah.
So,
This is a real good program,
yeah.
especially where they've got the land and everything for it. You wouldn't want to go out and have to buy land to do something.
No.
Couldn't do it.
And
John?
this is a real good program. I think we really ought to look at it close.
John?
yeah, I really like this, but it
I do
is,
too.
it is a ton of money. And I will just interject in terms of things that might be coming, is that we've been discussing reserving one of the parcels adjacent to Tacoma Green for a larger, they're putting a playground on in their proposal, but for a larger play space. There's a lot like right in the corner of it. And one of my suggestions was that it might be a good CPC application.
Okay, right. That's no further discussion until we get into the allocation, but I just wanted to make sure that you understood that the amount of money is different with respect to this particular category. Okay, thank you. Yep, I need to go see that.
So on page 4, names of governing board, the 2018 board of directors. My wife, Laura Watson, is named as a director, which is why I've recused myself in the past. She's stepped off the board. So
You
I
got-
don't
on a
know
day like
where
today,
that
you
puts
gotta
me,
wear
whether you
these.
want me to sit
My
on
street
or
is
Absolutely.
right up to my
If she's off the
Oh,
board,
she's off the
yeah.
board.
no
Oh,
comment.
Island is great.
It's bad.
Fine. God, my food festival started last night, so.
In the rain?
Well, it's all over. Yeah, we had a dinner at Nantucket Culinary last
Oh, okay.
night. So, yeah, we've got events tonight and tomorrow and Sunday, so
Is there a restaurant right here somewhere?
that already happened. It was end of September.
And I wanted to do it, and it was like,
Okay, this is the hearing with respect to Sustainable Nantucket. This is being recorded and videotaped.
Oh.
We've asked you to identify yourself, take about 10 minutes to flush out your proposal, and thank you, the coffee didn't spill. And then we'll open it to questions from the commissioners.
Okay, wonderful. I'm Amy Zielinski, Executive Director of Sustainable Nantucket. This is my first year in the position and my first time applying for a CPC grant and my first time realizing that I have to present this grant in front of this lovely committee. And I did mention I'm a little preoccupied. We've got a big food festival this weekend, 4-day food festival, so we've got a lot going on. So I'm really glad that this happened at a time when, there's no events happening. So thank you so much for the opportunity. So, our Community Farm Institute out at 168 Hummock Pond Road has been in existence for, I believe, 4 years now, and we come to the CPC each year for funds to help improvements and help us to grow new farmers for this island. And as we know, land is probably the biggest barrier to entry, so we're so thankful for the land bank for giving us access to this land, this 8.5 acres on Hummock Pond Road, to make this happen. We currently have 3 farmers operating small businesses out there, and it just so happens we have another farmer he is someone from the island that wants to move back and start a 1-acre farm. He's currently running a farm in Long Island and wants to move back with his wife and start another business. So this is actually perfect timing for us to talk about the expansions that we want to do that will, help the farm grow, but also help us to welcome another farmer in, because we've sort of reached capacity with a lot of what we have, and this will help us to be able to welcome in another farmer, whether it's this gentleman or someone else in the future. So one of the big things that we are asking for in this is improvements to the road. That's the biggest chunk of the money. It's literally, I'm sure today it's probably a huge mess as the rain, but it's just essentially a dirt road. And in order to, move produce back and forth throughout the farm, we really need to have a functional road. And we're not going to pave it, but we just need to have it just not be a pile of muddy dirt. So we've met with Toscana to give us an estimate on what we can do that it will be, good for the environment and also work for what we need. Again, just transporting things back and forth, from the back 6 acreage to the front of the farm and then off the farm for retail sales. We also need to expand our wash station. So right now, if you go out there any day in the summer, it's busy. I mean, our farmers grow a lot of greens. Greens are a really good cash crop. They have a high margin, and so washing greens, and you triple wash them. You want them to look beautiful when they get to the market, whether it's to retail or to a wholesale customer. So we want to expand the wash stations so that we can fit another farmer in there, so more things can be washed at the same time. And then our hoop house, we want to try to grow later into the year. We're experimenting with our first ever late fall, early winter CSA this year. It's going to start next week and go in through the week before Christmas. So we're giving it a go with a small group of people that want to buy in and have produce available to them in sort of off season. And if that goes well, hopefully it'll expand. But having heat in our greenhouse will be able to to help us to grow later into the year, which is important. And again, once the summer is over, it's hard to get local produce. I personally find myself going off island in the winter to Rhode Island to this big farmer's market to buy produce because I care where my food comes from. I want to be able to trust the source of my food, and I don't necessarily trust what's coming in to our supermarket. So this will give residents a chance to know where their food comes from, not just in the summertime, but in the fall and maybe into the winter as well. And lastly on the list is the addition of a dry storage shed. We grow a lot of tomatoes and then in the fall, winter squash, and just need more storage to store things that are protected from the elements, protected from critters. And so just the addition of the dry storage shed, we're asking for funding on that as well. So all of that will benefit, the farmers that are there now, and then also help us with an expansion of welcoming at least one other farmer, if not more. I heard from a local restaurant that is interested in getting a plot as well. So we've got some interest from other people that are interested in getting into farming, which is so exciting because, it makes me happy.
Linda.
Plus, you do work with kids, and you have the outdoor classroom.
Yes.
And so it's not just exclusively for those who haven't been on before, exclusively for the farmers that are producing retail.
Yes.
There's a lot of community participation as well as kids.
Yes, we bring
classroom.
Yeah, the outdoor classroom.
Young farmers, that kind of thing.
Exactly. We're doing field trips like the Boys and Girls Club. A lot of summer camps come to the farm, and we open the farm up whenever we can to people coming. We do tours to the public. So yeah, it's not just for our farmers. It is for the public and especially for children as well.
Because our task is to get stuff accessible for the public, because it's public funded.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, and it is open. Yeah, the farm is open. We just built a little mini farm stand, so we'll be able to sell produce. It just got constructed, of course, in September. Perfect timing. But so yeah, next year you'll see a little mini mobile farm stand unit that'll be at the farm. So it'll encourage more people to come out as well.
Other questions? Maria.
Amy, how do they figure out the 40,000 for the road? Is it like
I have a quote right here from our friends at Toscana.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah. So this is strip existing driveway of wood chips and loam and stockpile on site. Replace with fill to 8-inch from grade and place 8-inch of base mix, roll and compact.
If you could just get us a few of those, that would be great to add. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I'll
email a
this
copy.
is I'll email you a copy. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Other questions?
I have one, Mr. Chairman. I couldn't figure it out from the submission, but do your customers, for lack of a better word, the people that use the accoutrements of what you have there and run a business, is there any sort of payback from them to you for the assistance that you?
Yes, they pay a rental fee. So every farmer that rents land, whether they're renting an eighth of an acre or a full acre, they pay us a rental fee, very modest.
Yeah.
Like the eighth of an acre, I think, is $125, and it goes up from there. Because again, farming is not an extremely lucrative business, and we want to make it accessible. So sustainable, does cover the cost of overall maintenance of the land, making sure that the farm is maintained. We have a farm manager making sure that the fences are secure, that the well is tested. So, we're dealing with the infrastructure and letting them, deal with their individual businesses.
And I think that's a great way to approach it. I didn't expect there would be a huge rent, but I was wondering on the flip side of that, at the end of the year, on how successful they've been, if there's any profit sharing, if you will.
There isn't.
To help offset your expenses.
No, that's an interesting concept. Again, our farmers are very different. I would say that there's 3 farmers now, and they're 3 different levels. Like one is just growing they're very minor growers. They're growing a lot of herbs and peppers and things to sell in their shop. The next farmer up is just her and her husband, and they're growing for CSA, and they're growing for the farmer's market. The next farmer up actually has multiple employees, and he's selling to more restaurants and selling more. So we have like a very diverse range. So, but that is an interesting concept that I could bring up with our board and committee to see if there's a way, we want to support the farmers. We
Of
also
course,
want
of
to,
course.
succeed as an organization. So that is it's an interesting concept.
Maria?
Just a comment, because I was able to go out, and I wouldn't go today, but the solar system that they're using to heat I almost call them like Quonset hut greenhouse, that was really impressive. And we all know what farms look like. It's an aesthetically pleasing place. If you go, when somebody planted red, yellow, it's in very nice order for a working farm. So just a comment that nice job so far.
Yeah, we're lucky. Our farmers are very conscientious, and we do events there. We open up to the public, so we want it. There's not piles of in farms you're going to find
tight.
piles of things, but we really try to keep it neat and tidy, and we pride ourselves on that. Thanks.
Other questions?
Just one. If you had to make a choice, if we couldn't fund everything, what are the top priorities?
I would say the road and the expansion of the wash station.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Because the wash station, I think we need that as we are and as we want to grow. And the road is, it's brutal. I have a Subaru and I'm, nervous driving it down there. Sometimes I don't want to get stuck in the mud.
You'd never make it down my road today.
Any other questions from anyone?
Well, no, but it's just a comment, especially since my wife, Laura Wasserman, has just stepped off the board, which is why I can sit here, as I've watched this and from its inception, really. And I just think everyone's done a marvelous job, and the community support has been heartening. And having grown up as a country boy, I'm so pleased that there is still on this island, echoes of that, and this helps remind people where actually food comes from, so the younger generation. So I'm very pleased that you've persevered against some fairly high odds. So.
Linda?
If that's the case, I would just give us a new applicant background page, because his wife is still on there.
No, well,
I know, I'm just saying, I just...
As of that,
Yeah.
of this printing,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I would just
Yeah.
give us a new page in case anybody asks.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And take her off of there.
Sure, yeah, because our annual
The board
meeting
just
was in
switched.
September, so,
Yeah.
okay, so we need to.
Just that one page. I see Seth is on there.
Yes.
Susan Handy, a lot of restaurant people.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, then thank you
All
very,
right,
very
thank
much.
you very much, and please check out our food festival this weekend.
I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah, we're doing
Where's
this.
it gonna be?
Well, there's events at the Nantucket Yacht Club, Nantucket Culinary Center. One thing I'm really excited, I'm bringing this guy in from New Haven, Connecticut about sustainable sushi, which I feel like living on an island surrounded by water, dealing with, fishing and scalloping, and like he's really pushing the envelope in what the definition of sushi is, and I'm really excited about him, and it's going to be an educational and interesting experience. So, cool. Thank you.
Not that I like sushi.
Well, this is different, because it's going to be used. He is not your traditional sushi, so I think you might be pleasantly
I
surprised.
don't like seafood. I live on an island and there's no crap about that.
Have you had any interest? I don't know where.
Yeah, sure.
On the,
Yes.
I don't know if you call it kelp or seaweed, those.
From last year, no. All the oyster farmers that came to that talk, yeah, they weren't into that 3D farming, but I do believe.
It's huge down in Bridgeport,
Yeah,
Connecticut.
they have to cultivate it and actually put that in. We don't have that kelp here. We have-
Well, we did a talk about growing, about
You have to
actually,
actually grow it, because I've been out in Carmel and Monterey. They actually do that.
and it's big in Maine as well. Yeah, we tried to sell it to our oyster farmers, because the oyster farmers already have the infrastructure.
Yeah.
They would just they would grow it
They
off
have to
of
grow it
there.
off the infrastructure.
And, but then it's the market, so how do you then harvest it, dry
It's
it,
a
process
big
it?
production.
But, and the thing is, it's great, it helps to clean the water too, I mean, it's
Yeah.
great for the environment and.
You just don't want to dive in it because you get stuck in it.
But,
They
yeah,
said down in Bridgeport, the startup could guarantee them $100,000 a year starting pay.
yeah.
It's a big production.
I know, it seems like a
And that has to be
no-brainer,
your
but,
sole focus.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Thank you again.
All right.
Thank you so much, everyone. Stay dry.
Great job.
Cheers.
Just one other thing, because we've been talking about this. Amy only has, she's used all her money her first phase. Her second phase, she's only got 9,000 out there. And she is one of the most efficient, easiest people I've worked with in a long time.
That was the best hire they ever made.
She's like night and day. I mean, she's just great, so. And it is fun to go out to the farm. Besides going out to the farm, I forgot my show and tell in the car, but I went to look at the windows at the Macy warehouse. I just took a big chip because it was sitting there and I didn't think I was going to stick it back on, but they're in terrible shape, that building. And go inside because it's beautiful, the beams and all this stuff. So it'd be, you know, but it's
been leaking today.
It's in rough shape.
Monday, we start at
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. There's been a suggestion that we adjourn the 9 o'clock meeting and then just do a regular Tuesday meeting where we approve the stuff so that we don't have to come back Tuesday.
Great.
So say this again.
I don't, pardon?
No meeting on Tuesday?
So there'd be no meeting on Tuesday.
Hey,
I don't sense any problems with respect to that. So technically, we're,
3:15 times is awkward anyway.
yeah.
Problem is, you're gonna have to file that agenda amendment by 2 o'clock today.
Yes.
In order to make it for Tuesday at 3.
I'm aware.
Yeah, she's aware of that. That's why I asked her before.
Yeah, good idea.
So Monday
Yeah.
is 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Yeah. And it'll be, how many people are coming on Monday?
I think, oh, 2.
2.
3, sorry, 3.
Three, and then we will have the very short meeting with respect to approve the request.
And 9 o'clock on Tuesday.
9 o'clock on
Okay.
Tuesday.
Do you need me to come down there and sign Harlan's?
No, it's on Monday.
Monday is 9 o'clock. What are we doing Tuesday?
Nothing.
Nothing?
We're getting rid of the 3:15 meeting.
Getting rid of
Getting rid of the 3:15 meeting, and we're meeting Wednesday. We're gonna finish it in one fell swoop.
Monday is our
Oh, Monday's
last
still
Monday is the last
day,
of
first round.
the,
visitors, okay.
the first round.
That's the next
Presentation.
one.
And then we meet on the 22nd.
we meet on the 22nd.
Okay.
At 9
I'm ahead of
o'clock.
Yeah,
myself.
right.
Which is,
Yeah. And Glenn just told me that we will be able to hold our deliberations here.
yeah.
So, and hopefully by Monday I will have numbers from Brian because he promised them to me.
Yeah, usually we don't get them until like the 1st of November.
Well,
It'd be great if we could get them early.
well, the point is that we make a determination as to the funds that we have available, and if we miss, they then get put into the appropriate reserve, undesignated reserve category. So we will have numbers with respect to the CPC, with respect to the interest, with respect to the outstanding balances on the 2 bonds that you have talked about, and with respect to the undesignated reserves, because you will recall that we, as a policy, we have always had between $500,000 to $700,000 left in undesignated reserves. We will make a conservative assessment of what we think we will get from the state, so that we don't have the situation that we had a couple of years ago where the assessment from the state suddenly dropped and we had to make some real changes to do it. And to the extent that if we get additional money from the state, it goes into undesignated reserves, which we then have for future allocations. So we don't lose that money. So
Do we have a date that we want to try to look at after the 22nd?
we have 2 dates scheduled.
22nd and the 24th.
What is that, a Wednesday?
Monday and a Wednesday.
Monday
What
and
time? And they
Wednesday.
both 9 o'clock?
Yes.
Both at 9,
Yeah.
9 to noon,
Yeah,
here.
here.
If we all agree on the 22nd, we don't need the 24th.
Well, we take a first,
That would be a
I doubt
stretch.
that's gonna happen, but we take a first pass at it. Who stays in, who goes out?
Yeah, well, the thing is that we have, historically, we have generally required 2 days to be able to come to a determination. And so while there is nothing to prevent us from not being able to do it all in one day, historically, that hasn't happened because of the fact that we have a valid discussion about the ins and outs and about the relative merits of each of the proposals. So, and we have, we have some issues with respect to things that we're aware of, as Dawn pointed out, relative to one of the categories.
Yeah.
That, again, as Maria said, just because we have it doesn't mean we have to spend it. So.
What issue?
Well, we have to be just fiscally
The
responsible, that's all.
The thing that raises is that simply because we have $800,000 in open space doesn't mean we have to spend $800,000 in open space in this particular year.
I don't know what we're waiting for,
Right.
that's me.
Yeah. Anyway,
I have to say,
voted in favor
it's
of
not on the
last
agenda, but I spent quite a bit of time this last month out at the new fields that we funded. What a fabulous job you all that were here at the time. You deserve a lot of credit. I know it's controversial to some, but
well, the only thing
forget all the
Tim,
politics.
Tim, the only thing that's
Tim, they did not
controversial,
maintain it, and they
It's a
destroyed them,
wonderful
both of them.
the
facility
only
now.
issue is the fact
Destroyed
that
both of them.
the only issue is the fact that the town has made them look as if they're town fields as opposed to community fields. And they've taken possession of them as if they belong to the town, as opposed to being belong to the community.
That's why I said,
And
forget the politics.
and that's
Just
always
the
been,
functionality of them there.
that's always been the political issue with respect to it. I mean, the fact is that there is the Whalers logo on the field that was never supposed to be there because in fact, that was
Oh, yeah.
not funded by the town.
And
But
they
just
didn't
forget the
maintain
paint
them.
job and all that, just the fields, so many kids, adults are
The
into it.
field house is making some progress.
The field house, we're still waiting on that.
Yeah, no, it's making some
At
progress
least they
now.
water the fields in the summer.
Now, they destroyed the grass field first. That was my
It's
project.
pretty, it's a nice facility.
Yeah, anyway, so I really appreciate all the time and effort. There's a lot of stuff that you have to go through, and be prepared to be open-minded. And remember, there is no shrinking violets allowed, but there is also the absolute need to respect each other's
Yeah.
opinions and each other's point of view.
You know what?